Welcome back to the Bunkhouse. I am so honored to have with us today not only a very good friend of mine, but the Commissioner of Agriculture of the great state of Texas. And we take agriculture for granted. We can go to the store and buy anything we want at any time we want to buy it, any time of the year. But Todd, there are a few things that we take for granted that we shouldn't take for granted. You know, for example, do we kind of use 1938 as a gauge when 70% of our population lived on farms, 30% lived in the cities? Is that kind of where we go back to when we start developing these numbers and trying to figure out where we're going with agriculture?
Red, I think it is. The reality is we enjoy the quality of life that we do today because of our nation's farmers and ranchers who get up every day and work hard on behalf of every American consumer. But today we have only about 2% of our population that's really out there producing for American consumers because they've gotten so much better at what they do. Technology has led the way, and it provides for a better quality and safer food for all Americans. And the reality is around the world, because we are a leading export nation today when it comes to agricultural products.
What kind of products do we export? Let's just talk about our state, because things that affect our state and things that are relevant to the state of Texas are also relevant to agriculture throughout our country.
That's exactly right. And in Texas, we're very proud to be the nation's leader in both cattle and cotton, and those make up a big part of our exports. As a matter of fact, if Texas were its own country, some of my friends think that's kind of a good idea. We'd be the 5th largest exporting cotton nation in the world. And it's a big part of our economy. Agriculture in Texas contributes hundreds of billions of dollars, $100 billion, I'll say. I won't get carried away telling too big of a Texas tale here with you today. But it's a big part of our economy. It's in a big part of our jobs. And it's something that we experience every day. I like to say everyone is involved in agriculture, even if it's only 3 times a day. And that's what we need to keep in mind, because our children today think that chicken comes boneless and skinless and ready for the microwave, or our patties, hamburgers are round and prepackaged and ready to slide between 2 buns.
Or we can go to the store in the middle of the winter and get fresh fruit and vegetables.
And you bring up a good point there, because we are a world leader, America is, and certainly Texas is, but we're also dependent upon one another to a limited extent. Obviously, with the size of Texas, there's something in season just about any time of the year, but we do rely on seasonal imports, and we do import a certain percentage of our food in this country. As a matter of fact, if you look at about the $1.2 trillion that Americans spend on food annually, we do import about 7% of that total. So we are fiercely independent, but we do live in a global marketplace today.
Yes. And those things that we import are not necessarily just produce in the wintertime, but they're meat products. And most of that, I would imagine, is processed food that we get from Europe, as far as the meats are concerned. But we do import cattle also.
We do import certain segments there. But, you know, fish is really our biggest import. And that makes sense when you think about some of the competitive advantages that some other countries have. Might not surprise our listeners today to learn that beverages are a high import product here in the United States.
That is surprising.
Yeah.
Well, let's think about the things about agriculture that we do take for granted that affects the average person when they go to the grocery store. We're the luckiest people on the face of this earth.
Absolutely.
We have the most efficient, effective, economical, and safest food supply on this planet.
And not only that, but we spend a lower percentage of our personal disposable income on food in America than any other country in the world. Americans spend about 10% of their personal disposable income. That compares to around 22% to the citizens of Mexico and over 30% to the citizens of China. And so we have a high quality of life, and I really connect food security and national security, because you can look around the globe today and you can find countries in unrest, countries that do not have a high quality of life, and they are a food-dependent country. They are relying on other areas for their food production. We are not dependent upon foreign food in America. We know we don't like being dependent on foreign oil. We certainly don't want to become dependent on foreign food.
Well, we certainly don't want to go there, because they'd never have to fire a shot down our streets to conquer us. All they'd have to do is conquer the country that supplies our food if we don't protect our agricultural society and continue to feed ourselves in the same efficient manner we do today.
That's the reality of where we are, but also we find that domestic food production is being threatened every day. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of policies in our country today that will make American farmers and ranchers less competitive when you compare it to other countries and that have lower environmental standards, they have lower labor standards, and all that means is higher cost for the consumer if we have to be dependent on foreign food sources. But something that also we're seeing here, even in Texas, with the heritage that we have in agriculture, we're a growing state. We've got 25 million people today. That number is going to grow to 40 million people in the next few decades. That means less land will be available for agricultural production.
I read in some of your literature that for every 1,000 new residents, we lose 149 acres of cultivatable prime land.
That's exactly the numbers that my friends at Texas A&M have studied this trends with the phenomenal growth that we've had in Texas over the past decade. That's where we're at. In Texas, we have about 144 million acres that are in farmland, ranch land, open space lands, or timber. But as those numbers shrink, we know not all of it is good for crop production. As a matter of fact, since 1978, crop production and land in row crops has decreased by about 5 million acres. And that might alarm some people, and that does concern me, but really it kind of makes me proud, Red, because what it means to me is our farmers and ranchers are producing more with less land, less energy, less labor, and less inputs. I kind of think that's the right signal. Learning to do more with less kind of makes me wish we had a few more farmers and ranchers in Congress learning to do more with less.
I am so proud that you're in the office as our Commissioner of Agriculture, and I can't tell you how proud I am that you took the time to come visit us, Todd.
Well,
I know Mr. Todd Staples, the Commissioner of Agriculture of the great state of Texas.